This is Jay Morrison, and I'm giving a video to our world, our country, Americans, especially the Black America, African Americans, descendants of African slaves, new Africans I call them. I'm giving a message to us, 21 questions on how we can free ourselves and become an independent people. And I got my boy Mark Bullock behind the camera. He's gonna be asking me 21 questions we put together that will explain to anybody what this YMC movement is about. This is YMC Community Coalition. This is not about me. This is a coalition of like-minded people that either empathize or advocate with African Americans' advancement and our independence. And this is for anybody, white, black, any age, race, region, religion. I don't care if you're Muslim, Christian, it does not matter. Anybody that empathizes with the plight of Black Americans, of African Americans, and that wants to see us advance and be independent, watch this video and understand how we become free. 21 questions, let's go.
All right, so the first question I want to ask is, why were African Americans or Black people never set free?
All right, so for those of y'all who were like me when I first heard that we're not free, I'm like, oh man, here's somebody go with this conspiracy theory, Black Power-ish. But yo, real simple point. I'm gonna let you answer the question for yourself, right? For you guys watching. All right, if you kidnap somebody and you make them work for you for free, you enslave them, right? In a factory, a warehouse, plantation, wherever, right? Somebody's working for you for free. And then one day, 30 years later, 3 years later, or 3 days later, you say to them, you know what? You no longer have to work for me for free. Your enslavement is over. And you let that person go work for themselves, create a life for themselves and all that stuff, but they have to do it under your authority. Is that person free? If you kidnap somebody, made them work, but then say, you know what, you don't gotta work for free anymore, but you still gotta answer to me. Is that person free, the person you kidnapped? No, we all know no. So if Africans were kidnapped from different tribes and countries in Africa, brought to America, and enslaved for 250 plus years, but then the enslavement ended, and they were free from enslavement, but only under American citizenship, as the 14th Amendment says, then those Black people, those African slaves, and the descendants of those African slaves weren't free. We aren't free. We're just free to roam amongst the American government under their citizenship as subjects of the American government. But we're not the free, independent people that we once were over in Africa. Our descendants were free, independent people in Africa, brought and kidnapped here, conquered. Unfortunately, I hate to admit defeat, but Black people, Africans, African Americans, we were conquered and still are being conquered today in America and have no independence.
Wow. So what's the one thing that African American people don't have that every other race of people do have? What do you think about that?
So you think about this. Take our Puerto Rican brothers and sisters. What do they have we don't have? They got Puerto Rico for one, and they have a flag. They have an identity. Take our Irish brothers and sisters, right? Our Irish Americans, our European Americans here in America. What do each of them have? Our Italian Europeans, our Irish Europeans, the Russians, our Japanese Americans, our Chinese Americans, even the Native Americans. You look at every single race of people that go on a form, you fill out a job or anything, what do they all have that we don't have? They all have a flag, they have a nation, they have an identity. That's what we don't have. We're African Americans under the red, white, and blue American flag. But that's not who we were when we came here. We can't just have an African flag because the continent of Africa doesn't have a flag. It's a bunch of countries. We don't know what country or tribe we came from because we were inbred and sold in slavery and mixed up. We're basically, after the famous demeanors, we're basically mutts over here in America, but what we are, we're new Africans. We are a different kind of Africans that were enslaved here, that we were, our families were mixed up and commingled here, and we have an identity. We haven't claimed it yet. We don't have a nation. We don't have a flag. We don't have independence. We have nothing to rally around. We're Bloods, we're Crips, we're Gangster Disciples, we're Vice Lords, we're Christian, we're Muslims, we're Protestant, we're Methodist, we're NAACP, and we're NAN, and we're National. We're all these different things that are dividing us as they conquer us, but we're not united as one thing that could free us and make us independent. We don't have a nation. We need the Republic of New Africa, which is one that our elders have established in 1968 that we don't know much about, that I've learned about, so I'm sharing it. There's a Republic of New Africa, a PGRNA, the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Africa, which is a platform already laid out by our elders, right? 70, 60 years old, people that are still fighting and gathering this platform for us to have independence as a people, to have a nation, to have a red, black, and green flag, our USA, right? We can have that, but we have to claim it. And that's one thing that we don't have as black people. We do not have a nation that, when I say, for clarity, when I say black people, I'm referring to the African Americans here in America, the African descendants here in America of the enslaved Africans, right? So when I say black people, we don't have a nation, we don't have a culture that we identify with our own besides hip hop or the random things that we try to say that make us us, but there's no true identity, and we're not looked at as a nation. We're not even looked at as a nation by the United Nations or by any world courts, which is why we can't give reparations, which is one of our questions I know coming up. But go ahead, go to the next question.
I have a question for you. How can, African Americans set themselves free then?
All right, so how you set yourself free is you have to claim your freedom. You have to declare your freedom. How did America set itself free from Great Britain? With the Boston Tea Party, they claimed their independence, had a Declaration of Independence. How are we free from enslavement? We had to force that, we had to fight, we had to bleed over that, right? So for us, the first step for us to claim our freedom is to do what we're doing right now. Disclose the facts, take in the information, right? This is for everybody. Don't get mad at me, I'm making a basic point. If you take a kidnapped person and then you never actually let them let them be at the current state they were before the kidnapping, they're never independent as they were before the kidnapping. If you're still conquering them, they're not free. And you didn't give them a choice. Even World Court, Human Rights Court, right? Human rights law says that if you enslave someone, you have to give them 3 options after enslavement. To go back to where they came from, you have to give them new territory, or allow them to go somewhere else. We didn't have those options. Our descendants didn't have those options, right? So for us today to claim our freedom, it's all to rally around this cause, to unify together around a nationhood. And if we all, as black people, and our white brothers and sisters, and Hispanic brothers and sisters, and everything in between, if we all say, you know what, damn, that makes sense. Our black brothers and sisters were enslaved, were kidnapped, and never actually got true freedom. And if we claim it, if we announce it, and we do what's called a plebiscite, a big petition together, and we all, from Oprah to Hove to LeBron to people you don't even know, to the new rappers, to ball players, to big homie Marshawn Lynch, and just everybody in between, to the people who are famous, non-famous, and everybody says, yo, just gets the enlightenment, gets the wake-up call. Yo, we not free. If we all get past, if our issues, if our churches get past those non-profit checks they get, our mega churches, and everyone else says, you know what? Our freedom is worth more than anything else in this world, our true independence. If we announce that and we unify, get past our differences, get past the age differences, get past the territory differences, get past the religion differences. If we do that and unite around one cause, our true independence, we can declare our freedom and start to become a free nation here in America.
That's powerful. So you're saying, so are blacks worth less than Jewish, Japanese, or Native Americans?
Right, so
talk about that.
Yeah, that question, why we frame that question is because Native Americans here in America, right, who were conquered by Americans, by the early on American settlers, they got reparations, they got territory, they got land, they got tax incentives because of their human rights being violated, right? Japanese Americans were put in internment camps during World War II, and they got actual reparations for their descendants because the Japanese Americans, America got scared during World War II, right? When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, America thought that the Japanese Americans were going to uprise. So they actually put them all in camps. They actually oppressed them and put them in camps without any kind of real cause. And because of that human rights violation, America actually paid reparations to Japanese Americans. And guess what? America enslaved the Africans for 250 plus years, and then allowed with a blind eye the KKK and the Jim Crow laws to torment and oppress those freed African slaves, and stole their land and put false debts on them to make them pay back fake debt to steal their land. And they created a prison system and laws that were geared towards the African descendants to put them in prison to make them work for free in prison, the new Jim Crow. Wow. And then continually oppress them, as we've seen in South Carolina with the brother Walter Scott being shot in the back, and we saw the emails from the police department in Ferguson where they were clowning President Obama, calling him a chimpanzee, and the First Lady Michelle Obama, and we're raising money by giving tickets to African Americans, making them pay stupid tickets and fines, and just all the oppression we know about, from the mass incarceration to stop and frisk. How come you don't stop and frisk somebody on Wall Street, but you stop and frisk somebody in Harlem or Brooklyn? right? We see the current oppression of the mass genocide still going on today. It's more blatant. Otis Bird was just hung from a tree in Mississippi. The FBI is debating whether it was a suicide or a lynching, where he has a bag over his head in Mississippi, hung from a tree in back of his house with no kind of stool for him to sit on to hang himself, and with his hands tied behind his back, but he hung himself. Modern day lynchings. Alfred Wright got found in Hempville, Texas, with his throat slit, ear cut off. Abdul Delima in New York, who got sodomized by police, and just all the oppression we not go. Eric Garner got choked in our eyes on a camera phone just like this.
Wow.
We see the oppression, we see the genocide. It's been going on from day one, from the day that we left those African shores as kidnapped, conquered people. They have not let go of us. They got us in a choke like this. And unless we shake out of that choke, they're not gonna just open their arms. We don't give you independence. They don't give you freedom. You take freedom. You take your independence. You declare your independence. So we are, as African Americans, as black people, we are in a choke right now by the American government, right? And we aren't shaking out of it. And why are we not, to the world, right? To everybody, why are we not worth more than Native Americans or Japanese Americans or the Jewish, right? The Jewish who were in a horrible 12-year Holocaust. Hitler did some crazy stuff to the Jewish community and black community in Germany. But Israel got $1.5 billion for reparation for the Jewish people from that 12-year Holocaust. They got over $150 million just 2 years ago. Still, for the same 12-year Holocaust. But 250 plus years of a Holocaust, 350 plus years of oppression, black America got zero. Why are we not worth more as a people? We bleed the same as Japanese Americans, Native Americans, or the Jewish over in Germany. Why are human rights not valued the same? Why are we not standing up for our rights and being so distracted by who's shaking their ass, or by who got the hottest car, or by I'm a dope boy? We want to claim being a dope boy instead of claiming being an independent black person. We got to step our game up. That's why we're not free yet. Next question.
Wow. So, do you think, why are 90% of black males and females afraid of the police?
All right, so that's a really good question. I pose this to everyone, right? So, if you're driving down the highway, right? I got this from an elder, Baba Joe. And that's how I got this enlightenment. I sat for several hours with elders, old people that I never would kick it with, but who've been freedom fighters since the 50s and 60s. And they put me on so much game, and then I did my own research on top of that. I didn't go by hearsay. I don't watch a YouTube video and just listen to anything. Research everything I'm telling you. It's all facts. Research it yourself. So, when you take a case study, right? And you ask an African American male or female, right? Anyone in our community, the speed limit 70 miles per hour. You're driving down the highway. You're going 65 miles per hour, right? You see a police car coming up. What do? Average person, you either take your foot off the gas. You don't put your foot on the brake if you're smart, because your brake lights will pop up. Take your foot off the gas, or you hit the brakes if you're an amateur. Or if you're a super pro, you keep going the same speed because you already programmed yourself that I don't want to do anything too scary, right? But the reality is, why do we put our foot on the brake? Why do we take our foot off the gas? Why do we program ourselves to slow up when we see a police officer, although we're going 5 miles under the speed limit? And it's because fear. You are scared. You are scared of that same authority who the New York Police Commissioner said himself that the origins of policing came from slave catchers. The New York Police Commissioner said it. The origin of policing came from slave catchers. And if it is still in that same, why'd they hang us from a tree and lynch us and leave it to the open? They lynch you and let you hang from a tree to show all the other blacks you don't want no problems. Why do they shoot us in the back when we're running away? Why do they choke us on camera, knowing they're being camera, and let somebody die in their arms? To let you know you don't want no problems with this authority. That's what it is. It's fear. They've been instilling fear in us from day one. It's why they cut off our foot. It's why they whipped our backs. It's why they raped our women. It's why they molested our kids. And it's not white America that did it, right? It's the old white America who are under an old government law that has the same system, the same poison in it, but it's the government that allowed this to happen. This is not a white versus black thing. This message is just for black people. YMC Coalition is about all Americans, all world people internationally who empathize, sympathize, or advocate for the advancement and independence of black people based on these facts right here.
Wow. Does America hate black people?
Very good question. So, I was gonna do a video that America hates black people, right? But then it would be real controversial, and that was my key. And then I was gonna tell you that, or I was gonna say, why do black people hate America? And in reality, I don't hate America, but I hate what America's done to my people. And so when you ask me, does America hate black people, right? I ask you this question. Does a husband who abuses his wife, who spits on his wife, who kicks his wife, who rapes his wife, who steals from his wife's bank account, who cheats on his wife, does he love his wife? Maybe he does, but his actions don't show it. I was always taught that love was an action word, that love was a verb. So if America loves black people, show me. Don't shoot me in the back. I'll talk about my personal experience, right? I remember driving in Brooklyn, going to take a female friend. This is back when I was like 10 years ago. Taking a female friend to the doctor's, and I'm parked outside, and the cops pull me over, undercovers, right? Two white cops and a Spanish cop. They ask for my ID, I give it to him. And then he says, what's that in the back seat? I say, nothing. He says, oh, he opens my back door, reaches under my seat, and says, oh, I thought that was a wallet or something. Just illegally searched my car, but if he would have found a gun, he'd have locked me up. I had to get a lawyer. I had to bail out. The system would have got more money from me. I did time in Maryland, right? 18 months in prison for drug trafficking. I was wrong, dead ass wrong. I was selling hella drugs, right? But how they locked me up were the cops. I was parked in the fire zone. The cops got my license. They brought dogs down out of nowhere, searched my car, found money, didn't find any drugs. Impounded my car, then found guns and the drugs in the stash box. I was facing 15 years of life in prison. Thank God, through the grace of God, right? Even more than bail money or anything else, it was God's grace. I bailed out, paid a lawyer nearly 20 grand. The lawyer took me to trial, did this emotional suppression hearing, beat my charge. I still did 18 months in prison, but I beat 15 years. All because of an illegal search and seizure. It goes on every day. They illegally search us, they illegally frisk us. And then they make us pay for it. Even if we're in the wrong or not, that's not the point. It's like, why do you keep harassing us? Why are you always messing with us? Why have we been lynched so much? Why were we brutalized? Why was Malcolm X murdered? Why did the FBI and this Cotel Pro, why'd they have the Black Panthers, Huey Newton, Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, even Martin Luther King? Why was the FBI wiretapping Martin Luther King? Why did J. Edgar Hoover say we gotta do something about this Malcolm X fella because his power could be the one thing that could be a threat to our nation? Because the black independence is a threat to American nation because they want to keep ruling us, right? They don't like this. And so when you say, does America love black people? I say, I don't know. America's actions don't show me they love black people. Do my fellow citizens, white, black, Hispanic, whomever, do they love us? Yeah, probably. I have so many white friends and we do business together, and I have white students, YMC members, and again, this is for everybody. But does this government love the descendants of African slaves that they kidnapped and never let free? I don't know, I don't think so. But then you say, but your president's black. Yeah, our president's black, we voted for him. Like, that's how he got there. But he's still under the same government. He can't change all the laws on his own. He himself is not even an African American. He's an African, whose dad was an African who had American citizenship. He's not an African American. He doesn't come from the culture that we come from. His dad wasn't enslaved, or his grandparents weren't enslaved here in America. So even with all what you try to say, that one black president, right? One house Negro, I'm not calling Barack House Negro. I'm not. What I'm trying to say is that you can't put one or several black people in power, or in the house, or in comfortability. You can't let Oprah, and I'm not saying right? People have worked their way up. I worked my way up to a lot of success. I've got comfortable, but not comfortable enough where I'm not willing to sacrifice my success for my freedom and my people's freedom. And that's the big thing. We have to get past our comfortability to get to our freedom. Freedom is the most important thing in the world. Nationhood. We're not a nation. Let's become independent. Next question, please.
Is the government racist?
Again, is the government racist? Does the government act like a racist? Are the actions of the government racist? are the laws of the government race related? I think many of them are. I think that there's, just look at the facts. Just look at what's going on inside the government. Look how all the laws are created. I think the stigma, right? The systemic injustices that go on in America are a stigma and vestiges of slavery and how the government was created. The government was created with me, people like me, and those who are watching who are African descendants. In our laws, it called us chattel property, not people, not even slaves. Chattel property. We were kind of even less than dogs or cattle, nearly. So if the Constitution, right, and people, it drives me crazy that we celebrate George Washington and Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln, who all owned my ancestors, and our Declaration of Independence and our Bill of Rights. And I can understand how our white American brothers and sisters can be so proud to be American. It's so hard to be proud to be an American when you know all what America did to your ancestors, man, and are still doing to your people. Like, I'd love to be a super duper proud American. It's very hard when I think about when these laws were created, they didn't even look at us as people. And then when they were amended, we were 3/5 of a person. Like, you hate us so bad that you can't even call us a person, and you know our heart beats and we have babies and we're like, you know we're a person. So why in the laws you couldn't even consider us a person? That's weird to me. And guess what? What we should have did is scrapped all those laws when slavery ended, scrapped everything, started over with everybody in mind. But these laws in America were not created with the African slaves and their descendants in mind. That's a fact. So are they racist? I don't know. But were these laws and this system created with me in mind as an equal, with people that look like me as a mind and equal? No.
Are reparations needed?
Absolutely. And reparations thing, right? Another big topic that I was scared of, right? The only thing, 18 months ago, the only thing I knew about reparations was when Dave Chappelle did a reparations skit, and it was black people getting money buying gold chains and Cadillacs. And I thought reparations was a joke, honestly.
So they real.
It was such a big thing. Until I researched that the Jewish got reparations, Native Americans got reparations, Japanese got reparations. Why don't we get reparations? And what is reparations? And why is it needed? Reparations does not mean money. It does not mean hand black people checks. That can be a part of it, economic reparations. But also, we need healing for the emotional and spiritual damage due to our people. When you have 4 million slaves become unenslaved, not really free, but unenslaved, and you leave 4 million slaves to fend for themselves, who've been beaten, been abused, been raped, been molested. They used to take our black men, put them in breeding houses with many women, and take the strong black men and make them breed with random women. But then you're mad that we're not great fathers. There's so much damage, the vestiges from slavery, there's so much damage. Reparations is due to help repair, to reconcile, and to have restitution for black people and the descendants of the African slaves for all that we've been through and we continue to go through. If you want us to become whole, I want black people to become independent, free, and whole as a people. Don't enslave us and then expect us to heal ourselves. What we can do for ourselves is announce our declaration and our independence. But reparations are due to the corporations, to the individuals, and to the government that profited off our enslavement. I went to the White House. I walked under the Senate building, under Capitol Hill, and there's pictures under the White House of the African slaves building the White House. That's crazy to me. You got slaves building the White House with pictures in it. But we can't get a dollar, we can't get any kind of retribution for mental therapy, for parenthood training. We haven't got any land. And no, we weren't supposed to get 40 acres and a mule. Only blacks, Abraham Lincoln put a law in place, excuse me, sweating, that's what I do. Abraham Lincoln put a law in place that the blacks that volunteered to fight for the Union against the South, the Confederate, those blacks would get land and mules or whatever, right? Some kind of compensation. Abraham Lincoln got assassinated. The next vice president, I believe it was Andrew Jackson, came into presidency and vetoed that law. And the blacks that did get some land, it was then taken by the KKK. So a few of us who fought for this country stay together, right? Because the South right? The Confederacy is such a smack in the face that you have buildings, federal offices, corporate buildings and government buildings in the South that still flag a Confederate flag. That's like having a Nazi flag hanging in freaking Germany. You got a Confederate flag that represents the people in the South that fought to keep my ancestors and me right now would still be in slavery. People fought to separate themselves from the North, to have a different America in the South where they would keep slaves enslaved, keep Africans enslaved. But they're still allowed to hang Confederate flags and bring them to school and have them in their backpacks to sell them in stores to represent how they just totally disrespected our people. Such a smack in the face, America. But in regards to reparations in land, anyway, the South fought to be separate from America to keep the slaves. It was all over economics. The North didn't fight because they were so morally right. The North fought to keep the Union together. They wanted the South and the North to be together. So they wanted to end slavery because Britain wasn't having the slavery stuff. So the North sided with Britain, then fought the South to then unenslave us, but never free us. And for all of that, do your research, your own history, for all of that, yes, we should have reparations, repair, restitution, and we should have land. We have no territory for ourselves. 4 million blacks that built this country got no land. And in the Republic of New Africa, what our ancestors or what our elders have laid out for us since 1968 is to free the land, specifically Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and I believe South Carolina. 5 states for a black nation for us to be able to rule ourselves and have independence and territory within America. So these are the concepts for us to actually start becoming independent and free. But it starts with us declaring our independence. Next question.
You said New African. What is a New African?
So I haven't talked about it much in the first part of this video. I don't want to scare everybody. I try to do like baby food. But I believe we can't just say we're Africans, right? Like we are by descent, but that's a continent. So we're not, I don't know if I'm Kenyan, Nigerian, I don't know if I'm South, I don't know. It's a continent, right? So we don't know what tribes we come from, for the most part, unless we do a hella research, every single individual one of us, which still be mixed up. We don't know what tribes we come from, we don't know what countries in Africa we come from, but we do know we come from descendant of African slaves brought from the shores or inner parts of Africa. So, over these hundreds of years here, there's been a culture formed, right? Like we weren't allowed to be educated for 300 years. We weren't allowed to own much for 300 years. We weren't allowed to establish enterprise and businesses. And we've been started to, right? We've gained progress and we have our own swag and our own us, right? Our own experiences. We have our own culture. Those who come from the descendants of African slaves, we have one thing in common. We all come from the descendants of African slaves here in America. And for that, we are new Africans. We are a new breed of Africans here in America. So, in us rallying around one thing, a nationhood, an independence, a freedom, we have to call ourselves something. They called us colored. They called us Negroes. They called us niggers. We say niggas. They call us African Americans, African descendants, Afro-Americans. Why are we letting everybody else call us something? We name ourselves. We're our own people. So I call us New Africans. We're not the old Africans. We ain't the current day Africans that's over there right now. But we new Africans here in America with our new swag, our new independence.
So what does that nation look like? What does the New African
In a perfect world, to me, the New African nation is America doing the right thing. Out of 50 states, I believe it would be fair for our people to get 5 states of territory for us to profit from. The states have the highest black populations and have the heaviest slave populations. So in a perfect world, we have our free territory of the 5 states I mentioned. If that didn't happen for whatever reason, and I hate to try to claim any, defeat, so to speak, because that would be the ultimate goal, territory. Native Americans got territory. We should get some territory. There's a lot of us over here. But if that didn't happen, at the very least, is for us to have one flag. The red, black, and green. One flag, one nation, one nationhood. Have some kind of rights, same as the Puerto Ricans, same as Dominicans, same as other countries and territories under American rule or law, or at least, really, we don't want to be under American law at all. We want to have our own law, our own government, our own provisional government now, but our own official government. So what an independent black nation looks like is us being self-determined taking our own destiny into our own hands. Because we were an independent, free people before we got here. We just were kidnapped and enslaved and then never freed. Free from enslavement, but not free from the choke, from the authority. So for us to have our own authority, be self-determined, own government accountability, own laws, and our own system.
So how do we gain independence? It's the big one.
It starts right here. Starts right here, right now.
How do you gain it without violence?
Okay, you forwarding this video, you watching, share it on Facebook 10 times. Put some money up on WorldStar, post it. Put it on another blog it, tweet it. This is real. Everything I said is facts. Google it. It's not conspiracy theory, it's facts. So how we can do it without violence or war, and sometimes, I think it was, I want to say Fred Hampton. I'm pretty sure it was Fred Hampton. Could have been Huey Newton, so I apologize. Either one. It's crazy. Fred Hampton, right? Black Panther leader, great freedom fighter. They assassinated him in his bedroom at 21 years old. I thought Fred Hampton was like 30, 40, 50 years old or something. When I did my research, he was 21 years old. Was such a threat to the government that J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI director, was sending out memos about him, a 21-year-old. Not because he was a blood or a Crip and killing his own people. He's a freedom fighter. How dope is that? So there may be bloodshed, and I believe what Fred Hampton said, that it could have been Huey, might have been Huey, that politics is war without bloodshed. War is politics with bloodshed. So there may be bloodshed and fighting for independence. But how we can do it without bloodshed, without violence, without war, that's the ultimate goal. No one wants to go to war, but it may be called for if we can get our independence, because we need our independence. I demand my independence, right? But we have human capital, we have enterprise, we have economic power. And so we always try to say buy black, boycott on Friday, and all these other kind of things. But imagine if we unified, right? Unified, and we're willing to not risk a foot, to not risk a shot in the head, to not risk hanging from a tree like our ancestors. If we were all willing to be uncomfortable for 30 days of our life, right? Imagine if everybody that believed in real black independence, black people, white people, Spanish people, people from around wherever, who spends money here in America, imagine if we all said, you know what? My daughter goes to a great Christian school. My other daughter goes to a super dope private school. I love my comfortability of my life, but I'm willing to sacrifice all that comfortability to not spend $1 here in America. Not $1 for 30 days. Drink faucet water. Eat grass if you have to. Think about what your ancestors went to. If we just all stopped at one point, set a real date, and if everybody got behind this, from Puff Daddy to Nicki Minaj to everybody you could think of, instead of throwing our jerseys in the middle of the court, we just stopped spending money here. Like, no dollars, no car note, no mortgage getting paid, no nothing. Nobody spend no money for 30 days. We have independence. We shut this down. Part of my language. We'd have independence. That's how we can fight this war, through economic power. If we got together, rallied around one flag, one nation, one new African people, we can do it. We just gotta rally ourselves. Our pastors, our ministers in these churches, get past your nonprofit money. Get past your 65 million private jets. And rally our people. Yes, if you believe in Christ, or you believe in Muhammad or Allah or Islam or Jehovah, or who cares about a religion right now? It's about independence for descendants of African slaves. And we rally around that, and we threaten with a real financial weapon and got our leaders behind it. We can shut this down. If it's not 30 days, 60 days. This economy will crumble until they give us our independence. But it's on us to declare it and claim it and unify ourselves around nationhood. Don't you want to be a nation? Even if I'm not saying burn an American flag. I'm not saying you can't have dual citizenship. I'm not saying you can't even be an American without being a part of our new African nation. You could just say, you know what? I don't want to be part of that. I want to stay American. It's comfortable over here. I like it in the house. I don't want to be out there with those Negroes. That's cool. But I'm sure you can agree that we deserve our independence if we never got it, and our ancestors started as independent people, but who were conquered and kidnapped and enslaved and never set free as far as free independent. Yes, free from slavery. Although there's mental slavery that exists, I won't even get into that. But if we all could rally around that concept, man, get excited about, in my lifetime, in our lifetime, but like, yo, we free. We really free. We free for real, for real. That's awesome. We could do it. And we have the economic power to shut this down if we wanted to. Imagine that. Imagine that, Kendrick. We got the solution. Imagine that, Nipsey. Imagine that, Meek. We got the power to do it. We got the youth. We got the energy. And we got the elders who paved the way for us. And we got the money. We got the power. We spend more money than anybody in America. Just stop spending and we can shut it down. Get uncomfortable. Just get uncomfortable. We don't gotta eat Ruth's Chris. We don't gotta go to Chow's. We don't gotta go to the grocery store. We don't gotta go to McDonald's. We don't gotta go to Wendy's. We don't gotta spend that check. Just don't pay nothing. We can get our independence. We'll shut it down. Next question.
So how do we, I guess there's a challenge. How do we bridge the gap between the younger generation and the older generation?
We can just do it. It starts here, and I'm gonna really focus on doing that. I want to say the importance of that. I went to a reparations, a national, or actually a global reparations summit 2 days ago. It was packed. Danny Glover keynoted. I'll have that on my YouTube. But it was only 5 people under probably 40. It's a disconnect between our youth who have the energy and the muscle and our elders who have the wisdom and the experience and the way. And I went to Mississippi. I was documenting the new Black Panther Party, right, doing a documentary. And I got a chance to build with some freedom fighters, some elders. They weren't part of the NBPP, but they were part of the Republic of New Africa, and they were a part of NCOBRA, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. And I met with the president, and we were talking. I got so much game. It's like, I don't want to sit with no old people, really. That's how I felt in the beginning. Until I sat for 3 hours, then another 2 hours, then another 3 hours, talking to people that are like twice my age, literally. And I got so much insight, so much knowledge, so much game. They got it all. They laid the foundation for us. There is a Declaration of Independence for Black people already. They already made it. There's a new African creed already. They made it. They did all the work. They've been in reparation court over 12 times. You know why we haven't got reparations? Here's why we haven't got reparations. Because the reparations courts, the World Court and the civil courts, have said in America, you guys got a good case. It's so similar to the Japanese Americans. It's a good case for reparations, but you're not a people. It's a civil issue. You as a person gotta sue them as a person, this corporation, this person, or whomever. So Black people as a whole, African Americans, can't get reparations because we're not acknowledged as a people. We're just coloreds in America, Negroes in America, niggers in America.
How do you become a nation?
So that's the steps. By us declaring our independence and doing a plebiscite and petition for independence and announcing that to the world, all it requires is for one country, any country in the world, African nation, Caribbean nation, small little country, if one country in the world, once we establish and declare our own independence, if one other country says, I acknowledge them as a people, we now can legally be considered a nation and a people, even without land, and have a seat at the United Nations World Court. And through that claim of independence and acknowledgement of being a nation and a people, we then can take all of our oppression from day one up to currently, all the mass incarceration, systemic injustices, our Holocaust, we now can take that to the World Court and to the United Nations and demand our reparation and demand that America, the corporations within America that benefited, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, and everyone in between, and the people that benefited from our enslavement, all pay up through territory, finances, reimbursements, aid, restoration, reconciliation, repair. We can demand that, but it starts with us declaring our independence first. Then we can announce it to the world. Then we will get acknowledged by somebody in the world who has the courage to acknowledge us as a people who understands our story, our plight, who empathizes with us. And through that acknowledgement, we get a seat as an observer at the World Court. Wow. And now, it all unfolds. There's a solution. And I got this from the elders. Not that Jay Morrison is so smart, so bright. I'm just relaying a message, following my purpose, my calling, relaying the message to our people based on the framework laid down by our elders. And now we bridge our elders with our youth. We gotta do one conference with all the old heads and all the young heads. And we all gotta see our differences. Yes, they're in the African garb and they got their buns and their dreads up and they're, the elders got a different culture than us. They might have the big unk chains on and, and rebel this, and they have a different experience than us. But they're still part of our culture. We're one nation, one people. And us youth, we got our own experiences. We know what we go through with the cops and the prison system and education system and parenting and all that we go through as youth. But we need to unite those two, the elders and the young, around one thing. And that's where the power happens. So now you get all these Dr. Umar Johnson and Dr. Claude Anderson with a Jay Morrison and whomever else that's out there and everybody else, and we all say, you know what? I got a view on this. I got a view on that. We might disagree on a bunch of other views. We agree on one view, that we want people, we want nation, or one free people, one free nation, one independent people. That's all we got to agree on. I don't care if you're a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, Dallas Cowboys fan, Lakers fan, yo, let's stop letting everything divide us and let one thing unite us. One thing. Get out the yoke, get out the chokehold. Remove ourselves from the authority. They're not gonna remove themselves. We're pissed at the authority for how they treat us and oppress us. We're not doing nothing about it. And lastly, the elder, Baba Joe, told me this story. There was a guy, he moved into a neighborhood just like this. Moved in, takes a walk around the block. And as he's walking, he hears this, hears this howling sound. He's like, what the hell is that? Pays no mind, goes home. Next day, walks around the block again. Hears the same howling sound with a couple sitting on the porch. He's like, man. Goes back home, mind his own business. He's new to the neighborhood. Next day, walks around the block, same route. Hears that same howling sound, same moaning and groaning. He asked a couple on the porch, what is that sound coming from your house? They said, oh, it's just our dog. He's laying on a nail. And the guy said, well, why don't the dog get off the nail then? He said, it must not be hurting him bad enough. And that's us. Black people, we moan, we groan, we complain about the system, the oppression, the injustice. We lay on this nail of American authority, of colonialism, of oppression, of this citizenship we've been granted from our enslavement, from our kidnappers, and we never move off the nail. We never take action. It must not be hurting us bad enough. Mike Brown ain't hurt bad enough because all you're doing is surrendering. Eric Garner ain't hurting enough. Walter Scott not hurting enough. Running away from the authority. You can't even run from the nail. We gotta claim it. We gotta announce it. It has to hurt bad enough that we have not been free. We have not been given true justice, true independence, that we do something about it. And today's your day. Take action. In this video should be on a website where you can, below, any color, race, religion, creed, be a part of this YMC coalition to bring everybody together around one movement. Join us. Share this. Don't be lazy. It's such a small thing to do. You don't even got to break out of chains, like little chains like our ancestors did. You just got to promote, share this message, and rally with us. Share it. If you're watching this on another platform, or you're not on this joinymc.org website, share it anyway. Follow me. I'm not saying it for self-promotion. Don't have to buy anything from me or anything like that. Go to my website, jmorrison.net or jmrrealestate.com. They go to the same place, jmrrealestate.com or jmorrison.net. And just join my email list. Only for the sake, I'll be pushing this YMC message out through my email list, right? I do not want any self-promotion out of this. Please, let's not get distracted by, oh, that's another guy. No, this is the real deal. This is 100. I just want our people to be free. And I'm willing to step on the front line. I had a great job at a great real estate company. I did a similar message, and where they asked me to resign. Sotheby's International Realty, the owner of Prominent Properties, Sotheby's International Realty, Charlie Oppler, asked me to resign. I got it in an email because of my message and being a spokesperson for the black community. And I'll do it again. And I'll do whatever it takes to my lifetime or for my daughters or for y'all to one day be like, yo, we free. Real free. Not unenslaved. Real free. Rock with me. RUSA. Peace. YMC. New role model.